Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get...
Okay. How is everybody? Just a quickie today. Hello, Mia Wallace. Hello, Maestro. Hello, Deb H. Just us chickens. Just a few of us chickens. Hello, Deb. Just wanted to go over today's testimony really quickly. Now, what Hank Brennan has done so effectively in this trial is he's really thought about the order of the witnesses, and it's really brought to my attention how important it is, the order in which you bring witnesses and how you tell the story to the jury, so that you don't leave room for conspiratorial thinking. You really try to drown out whatever kind, in this case, you really would be thinking about drowning out whatever kind of innocence fraud campaign pre-trial has been done, the propaganda machine, try to drown it out with facts. Now, we heard Hank Brennan say in his opening statement to the jury that if they followed the facts, it would lead them to the truth. And what Karen Reed's defense team has done so effectively outside of court, not so much inside of court, but outside of court where there are no rules as far as perjury, evidentiary support, etc., is create a distraction from the really salient evidence in this case. So don't have the public think about the fact that Karen Reed's taillight was smashed all over the scene. John O'Keefe's DNA was found on those taillight pieces, found on the back of her car. Now, I'm sure Free Karen readers would like to say that John O'Keefe used her car as a pillow, her bumper as a pillow. That their CERT team was on the scene while the car was on the way to the Sally Port, that they could not have planted the evidence, microscopic pieces of Karen Reed's taillight embedded in John O'Keefe's shirt. Right? But that is all evidence, right? That they're going to say somehow Proctor messed with what Proctor really... they're going to say that Proctor touched John O'Keefe's cell phone and messed with the cell phone time and left that and And somehow I think they're saying now that the conspirators somehow opened the phone, John O'Keefe's phone, which had Face ID, and put it up to his brutalized face and opened the phone for what reason, I don't know, and then left it next under him. It doesn't make any sense why you would want to open his phone to do nothing on it. I don't know if they're going to say the phone data is messed with, but it shows that it never moved from that area. And you can see the temperature going down, down, down as it's under John O'Keefe. And this was all Ian Whiffin's testimony. They did not do a very good job of countering it. I mean, the best they came up with was like, well, you did this own test in a freezer without a body on top of it, and it didn't go down in the same manner. Really, Robert Alessi, Karen Reed's pro bono, attention-seeking defense lawyer. Really, tell me again, it didn't go down the same way it would when there's a body on top of it, barely clinging on to life. And after, so we wouldn't expect it to reach the same temperatures as the outdoors. Right? So it shows the time that also it echoed back to Ian Whiffin from Cellbrite, the organization that is really the gold standard in cell phone data, was getting these communications from Karen Reed's defense attorney and other communications about this 207 House Long to Die in the Cold Search that Jen McCabe did. Well, she didn't do it at 207. She did it at 623 and 624 as the testimony, as Jen truthfully testified. So what that was an open browser at 207. It wasn't. So if you use a browser that's open at 6 in the morning and it was open at 2, it's going to, so they fixed that. They had to rewrite the whole program. And also what was shocking about Ian Whiffin's testimony is that we had Richard Green testify last time. Oh, I contacted Cellbrite, but I never heard back from them. I had to go over this. I remembered it, but I had to go over it. It's like, didn't he? It was really shocking to hear Ian Whiffin say we were contacted by Richard Green. Richard Green testified. This is McNasty Green with a criminal history of his own, being drunk and disorderly at a bar and grabbing a woman and then claiming he was pushed to the ground and knocked out. He started lying and blaming other people. What does that sound like? When he was caught in his own disgusting criminal behavior. Sounds a little like Karen Reed, doesn't it? So McNasty Green said, I contacted Cellbrite and never heard back from him. Ian Whiffin this time around says, yeah, I wrote him back. I wrote him back and cleared it up. So McNasty Green is testifying to things that he knows are wrong. He knows that they rewrote the program in a brilliant cross by Adam Lally last time. He said, did you know that they had to rewrite the whole program so errors like yours wouldn't continue? And we saw an on-the-moment test to demonstrate this by Ian Whiffin. So, I mean, I don't know how much more, Karen Reed will hang on to this because it's all she has, and the Free Karen readers will hang on to this debunked 207 time search as much as they can because it's all they have. Karen Reed came out of court saying that Cellbrite says it. No, they don't. Ian Whiffin works for Cellbrite. He's testified in 20 trials? Maybe more? Did I get that wrong? Something like that. That's a lot of trials. This is like the premier expert on this. With Jessica Hyde, we had last year saying the same exact thing. And they said, well, this other program still hasn't corrected this error, so that means it's right. They were using a lot of the arguments that have been on the internet, which is what I've been saying all along, is that the defense is getting ideas from the Free Karen Reed fans. They have like an army. It's not like just that they have the pro bono lawyers working on this case and the student lawyers, volunteer lawyers working on this case. They have an army of people, and this is why I've always said, if you have ideas for Hank Brennan, write them. If you don't mind it being handed over to the defense, because he seems to hand over everything to the defense, send him ideas on this side of the fence, because they're getting ideas from the murderers' groupies. So let's see. Karen Reed was interviewed after court, and she says that, she's pretending like she's Joan of Arc, and she's courageously, nothing's breaking me, she says. She's courageously forging through into battle. Let me see if I can turn this up. 1 second.
Celebrate does.
What do you
Thank
think
you.
about that? Karen, any reaction to the Supreme Court not taking up the case?
Nope, fight on. Nothing's breaking me, Matt.
And your reaction to the expert with the Commonwealth saying that it wasn't 2:27 or 2:26, that it was actually after 6 a.m.
Celebrate says 2:27, and it was deleted. Celebrate does.
What do you
Thank
think about
you.
that?
No, they don't. No, they don't, Karen. No, they don't, Karen. No, they don't. Celebrate's employee came, testified. It's a great witness. I mean, he makes it as understandable to someone like me. I can imagine. I heard the jury was very attentive and very sleepy when Alessi came on. So, in other news, just to speed through this. Does anybody have any questions? Did I make that clear? I listened to last night's show, and I don't know if I ever said that Ian Whiffen was from Celebrate. So it's people like me who my absent-mindedness is helping Karen Reed continue this conspiracy that all the people... He did a live demonstration. Thank you, Maui. That's what I was trying to say. Did a live demonstration that was excellent. Very easy to understand. You could see it happen in real time, the way that data is presented and how it could be confusing. But here's another witness perjuring themselves on the stand. If that's true, if he said they never heard back from Celebrate, he contacted them and never heard back. Or did he hear back and not get the answer he wanted and wanted to continue on and get the money from Karen Reed and her defense team? Sounds like the latter to my ear, but we'll see when he testifies. Everyone's coming in, including Arca. Today, I thought that was ridiculous. We'll go over it quickly, but let's look at some of Jen McCabe's testimony. Very strong witness. Karen Reed, in her psychopathy, profiles people. She knew that Jennifer McCabe would be the strongest witness against her, that Carrie Roberts was too traumatized by the whole event to really think clearly. And they went after her, so she pinned her crime. I think what's going to happen, my prediction is that after this testimony and after what will be a very aggressive, hostile cross by Alan Jackson, looked like he was working on it in court today, going over highlighted material, that they will play Karen Reed's own statements from the Body in the Snow TV show, where Karen Reed says something to the effect, I may have it reversed, but either Jen McCabe was going down or I'm going down, or I'm going down or Jen McCabe's going down, something like that. I mean, that sums it up. Once you see Alan Jackson getting very aggressive with her in the cross, Karen Reed puts a nice punctuation mark on why that's so. I'm not going down for my own crime. Jen McCabe's going to go down. I'm not going to go down for it. Jen McCabe's going down for it. I mean, I think he would be a fool if he didn't play it then. That's my prediction. I think it would be a nice punctuation and pull the rug out of under anything that Alan Jackson achieves and cross. We'll see. But she's a very strong witness. She's a very likable witness. That's how I received her. I didn't get the feeling. I mean, we looked yesterday at Daniel Wolf. That's what a lying witness looks like. Defensive. Story changes. Jen McCabe's story has never changed. It's always very clear that Karen Reed came over, called her screaming, so much so that it woke up her husband. He thought the kids were in the room screaming, Jen, Jen. Or am I thinking of when she came and started yelling outside her house, Jen, Jen. And he said, shut her up. Matt McCabe said to his wife, Jen, shut her up. She's going to wake up the whole neighborhood. And then she continued that, Jen, Jen, Carrie, in the back seat. In between, Carrie Roberts is driving. Jen McCabe is in the passenger seat. She's leaned forward, screaming in their ears, getting them into a fear state, confusing them. I mean, there was no need to bring Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts to the crime scene. There's no need to involve all these people. The reason Karen Reed involved all these people is to mix it all up. Get in other personalities, get in other people that she can point the finger at. Have an audience when she play acts at being upset and discovering John O'Keefe. She has to have an audience. What good is discovering John O'Keefe without an audience? She has to create her own evidence. It's something that she's done all along, creating her own evidence. Hey, Eva. Roberta, what are your thoughts about the 36 steps taken at 12:31 when John got out of the car? Did it create doubt for the jury as free Karen readers? No. I don't think so. I mean, they can hone in on it, but I think he had some time to walk before Karen Reed backed into him. That sounds about right to each step, right? Each foot is a step. Am I right in thinking each foot on the pavement is a step? What do you think about Eva? Do you think that will create doubt? I mean, it didn't move from there. I think they're going to have a hard time selling this conspiracy theory to the jury if it's a fair jury. If it is an unfair jury and we have free Karen readers on the jury, none of this matters. We could have a film of Karen Reed running over John O'Keefe and they would all say she's innocent and vote to acquit. It doesn't matter. 25 meters and 82 feet. How far is 25 meters? I used to swim the 25 meter and the 50 meter when I was a swimmer. That's not far. In how long? 25 meters? I'm visual. It's like a swimming pool, 25 meters. 25 meters in how long? 36 steps is right. In 82 feet. I mean, they're pretending like you walked a football field. That's not a football field. I mean, this is just the minutia. Show me the real evidence. Show me how John O'Keefe's phone didn't move from that area. He didn't move from that area. Hence, no conspiracy. With all the rest of the evidence. Okay, let's get into the trial and Jennifer McCabe's testimony.
I was the room parent. I coached them.
I'll allow it, but when we...
Yes.
When I coached, I drove the kids back and forth on my team, would take them places, etc.
In the growth of your family and raising your children, at some point did you meet a gentleman by the name of John O'Keefe?
Yes,
Share with us meeting John O'Keefe.
sure. When my third daughter was in kindergarten, she became friends with John's niece. And during that kindergarten school year, unfortunately, Kaylee's mother and father both passed away, and John moved in the house and became Mr. Mom.
When John took over guardianship of the children, did you assist in an active role in helping him?
Yes, Kaylee and
Can I say one also things that are curious? So I find it very curious that they were all trying to frame Karen Reed, frame the finance professor. Wouldn't they be saying horrible things? Wouldn't they be making up horrible lies about Karen Reed, how awful she was, how they hated her? Jennifer McCabe said she liked her. I don't think Peggy O'Keefe was hip to Karen Reed's being the psychopathic murderer, narcissist that she is. But I don't think Jennifer McCabe was. And can I say something about this? Let me just say something about this MS. I'm not convinced Karen Reed has MS. I'm not convinced she has a brain tumor. I'm not convinced she's had her colon removed. All these things that Yannetti, here's another thing you shouldn't do, lie to the court. Another example of Yannetti lying to the court. She had her large sections of her colon removed. She has this, she has MS. Have we ever seen any proof she has MS? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if she used these things, you can see it in the text messages when John O'Keefe says he's having a hard time too. Karen Reed says, well, things haven't been easy for me. I'm really either, you know. What's that about? How is it haven't been easy for you, Karen? Are you throwing out fake illnesses to gain sympathy and gain control over John O'Keefe? I mean, everything about the relationship, Karen's, how do I say this? Karen's attitude towards her relationship with John O'Keefe has to do with power and control. How much power can she exert over him? Did she profile? Now we have Natalie Bernschneider-Wawicki, the middle person between Aidan Carney and Karen Reed before Karen Reed ghosted her, saying Karen Reed studies Facebook like no other. Did she, when she started dating John O'Keefe, started profiling his friends on Facebook and find out that Jennifer McCabe had MS and take that on as her own illness? And did that brain tumor come from John O'Keefe's sister who died of a brain tumor? I mean, have we ever seen any proof that she has MS? So Jennifer McCabe has MS. In the beginning of her testimony, she said, I like talking to someone who had MS too. Wow, that's a good way to get in, right? She's just like, Karen Reed's just like my friend Jennifer, my good friend Jennifer who has MS. You two will get along, said John O'Keefe, because you have MS. Has there ever been any proof? We've never seen Karen Reed. She's always looked thin. Sometimes she's looked tired, but she's never looked ill.
my daughter were very close. So she would come over and play. My daughter would go over there. Kaylee would come and have sleepovers. A lot of times it would be on Friday nights. I would have Kaylee, and then another individual would have Patrick.
Had you known John O'Keefe well before he took over guardianship of the children?
No.
During the time when he was the guardian of the children, did your relationship, not just with his niece and nephew, but with him, grow any closer?
Yes, we became very good friends.
How close of friends did you become over the years?
Well, throughout the years, obviously, when they were younger, we talked more, just about the logistics of CCD, pick up, drop off, basketball, sports. But then he would also call me, about, as the girls got older, the girl drama, or, the hormones and things like that. He would also come over, and hang out and have a beer and, just talk about whatever was new in his life or going on, or, just the day in and day out struggles of his, life and raising the kids now and figuring it all out with, work and family and all that.
Leading into January 28th of 2022, so the jury understands How close was your friendship with John O'Keefe at that time?
He was a very good friend of mine that I knew I could call for anything.
I want you to take us forward to January 28th, 2022. Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember it well?
Yes.
Take us to the early morning hours, January 28th, 2022. Did you learn there may be weather or a storm coming?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We all saw the report that there was going to be a big storm, a nor'easter. So we all knew that basically all the Saturday activities were going to be canceled.
That includes sports?
Yes.
Was and is the sporting events of the children a big part of your life?
Yes. Back then I had, two in high school that played 3 sports, and they played club sports as well. And then the 2 middle school played club sports and town sports. So most of our weekends were taken up by kind of running from one sporting event to the next.
When you learned about the weather and the change in schedule, did it change your plans for that day?
No, not particularly. I had my day was pretty set out. I had my niece, and then I had sporting events. It was kind of my plans for the next day that obviously got changed.
Take us through the afternoon of the 28th. What's happening?
So I just want to go through this timeline of events here. So Karen Reed admitted, this is also often lost on the free Karen readers. Karen Reed admitted that she smashed her taillight before her orchestrated 507 love tap into John O'Keefe's car, where she backed right into him when there was no need to, and love tap backed right into his car with her car, and there's no need to. Strangely, it wasn't deleted like other footage was on the Ring camera. So at 5:49, she's calling Catherine Camerano, who was a nurse, and she was working the night shift at the time, yelling, "Where's Mike? Where's Mike?" And John didn't come home. And that first call lasted 2 minutes and 51 seconds. Then at 4:52, Karen got off the phone with Catherine Camerano, and then she instructed Kaylee to call Jen McCabe. At 4:53, Jennifer McCabe was awoken from her sleep to her phone ringing. The number on the screen displayed an incoming call from Kaylee. Kaylee said to Jennifer that John didn't come home. In the background, she could hear Karen screaming, "Jen, Jen, Jen, Jen." And I was right. It was Matthew McCabe, her husband, Jennifer McCabe's husband, said he woke to the screaming of "Jen, Jen, Jen." This is his testimony. "So when I woke up, I thought there was someone in my bedroom. I kind of snapped out of bed. What the hell's going on? Look around the room, realized my wife was actually on the phone. It was loud enough to wake me up from a dead sleep. I could hear it. It was loud. Obviously, I was laying in bed and realizing after my wife was laying right next to me on the phone, but it was loud. Jen, Jen, Jen." It was repetitive, he says. Karen also said to Jennifer, John didn't come home. They got into a fight, and that she left him at the waterfall. And then Matthew McCabe went on to testify, "I asked my wife, what the hell is," after I woke up and popped up, looking around the room to find out who's in my bedroom, assuming it was a kid, one of my kids screaming. I asked my wife, "What's going on?" And I could hear her saying, "I'm on the phone to Karen. She can't find John." The conversation continued for a couple of minutes. I could hear the dialogue, and then again, right back to Jen, 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 repeating my wife's name. Jennifer said she remembered that Chris Albert had still been at the bar, so I thought, well, maybe John walked home with Chris because Chris lived so close to the waterfall. In her confused and half-asleep state, Jennifer told Karen she was going to call Julie to see if John had ended up with Chris, then hung up with Karen to call Julie Albert, Chris's wife. And at 4:55, Matthew McCabe said, "I think my wife immediately called somebody else." Do you see how consistent all these testimonies are? Well, the free Karen readers are going to go, because that's because they conspired. Was calling friends that live near the waterfall. They happened to be out that evening, and she started making those calls. And Jennifer began calling Julie Albert. Her husband, Matthew, said, "What are you talking about? We saw them outside your sister's." At which point, Jennifer ended her call with Julie's number. And at 4:56, Catherine Camerano called Karen back. This time, Catherine said she could hear the voice of her daughter's basketball coach, Jennifer McCabe, in the background. And that call lasted 2 minutes and 57 seconds. The next call, this is Matthew McCabe, says the next call we were informing the defendant that, wait, we saw your car. We saw you come to 34 Fairview. You guys were there, and I heard the response of, I don't remember going there. She remembered. Matthew McCabe also stated, my wife had made a couple of phone calls, and one of the calls with Karen Reed, she blurted that she broke her taillight, cracked her taillight, something to that effect. So this is all before 5 a.m. And maybe, or wait, to be fair, a little before 5 a.m. and going to 5:07 or 50, all before 5:07, when she actually created a distraction of how she broke her taillight, an alibi for herself, so to speak. That was the beginning of the cover-up, Hank Brennan says. Actually, the cover-up started way before that, but it was part of the cover-up. That's a better way to put it.
Well, I had my niece for the week, and she was picked up. My oldest was on the hockey team, and she was having a team dinner at the house, so I picked up pizza, got desserts, set it up for them. And then I left with my daughters and my husband, Matt, and we met some of the parents from the high school basketball team at a local pub to grab a bite and a drink before the basketball game, because my other daughter played on the high school girls basketball team.
What time was the basketball game set for that night?
I believe it was 6 or 6:30.
Did you and your family go to the game?
Yes, we did.
After the game, what happened?
After the game, I drove my daughter home. My sister, Nicole, sent me a text and said that she was going to be at the waterfall, and it was my nephew's birthday. He was going to meet up, and did I want to come by for a drink?
What is your nephew's name?
Brian Jr.
It was his birthday that night?
Yes, it was.
When you received a call to meet with friends and family at the waterfall, do you remember what time that plan was made?
I don't. My sister sent me a text at some point letting me know she was going to be there, so I don't know what time.
After the game and after some time, did you go to the waterfall to meet your friends and family?
Yes, I did.
Describe very briefly, what's the waterfall?
It's just a local town bar.
Do you remember about what time you got to the waterfall?
About 9 o'clock.
When you got there, was there anybody there that you knew?
Yes.
Okay, now take us inside the waterfall. When you get there, who do you see?
I walk in and I see Julie and Chris Albert, my niece Caitlin, my sister Nicole, and my niece's boyfriend Tristan.
You said you saw Julie and Nicole Albert in the waterfall?
Yes.
Were you related to either of them?
Nicole is my sister.
So Brian Sr. would be your brother-in-law?
Yes.
Also, you mentioned there was a niece?
Yes, Caitlin.
And is that Brian and Nicole's daughter?
Yes.
You mentioned the name Tristan. What's his relationship to Brian Albert's niece?
He's now her fiance.
And was there anybody else I missed?
That's all who was there. I'm not sure if Nick Kolakitis was already in there when I got there or if he arrived right after. And then his wife joined us.
So when you're in the bar and you see your friends, what do you do next?
So Karina Kolakithis testified to the grand jury that Karen Reed was disparaging John O'Keefe and John O'Keefe's mother. But when she testified at the first trial, she's not testifying this time. They were terrible witnesses. Basically, they took, after John's murder, they took the murderer's side. I've been over that before, and strangely, when Karina testified, she said that they looked lovey-dovey, which is exactly the same phrase, lovey-dovey, from John O'Keefe's text from that day before he was murdered. The day of he was murdered. So he was murdered at 12:31 something, right around that time, 12:31, 32. And so that's the next morning, in the morning. But so if you consider the day he was murdered, if you consider 12:30 into that, it's really into the next day. But he says, I'm not so quick to be lovey-dovey as you are, Karen, after a fight,
I immediately just, join them and sit down.
Were you eating, drinking?
I know I ordered a beer. They had appetizers on the table. I'm not sure whether I had any or not.
Were you drinking alcohol that night?
Yes.
As you're spending time with your family, did the night grow?
Yes.
Did you stay at the table where everybody was eating, or did you move inside the bar?
We were pretty much right around the table.
Did anybody you knew join you or join the group at some point?
Yes. A little while later, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins joined us at the waterfall.
So when you first got there, was Brian Albert already there?
No, he wasn't.
Is that your brother-in-law, Brian Albert?
Yes.
And you said Mr. Higgins. Did you know Mr. Higgins?
I had met him a few times when he was out with Brian.
You had met him a few times before that night?
Yes.
Were you friendly with him?
He was a friend of Brian's.
Was he your friend?
No, he was Brian's friend.
You knew who he was?
Yes.
So when Mr. Albert and Mr. Higgins joined the group later, did they come directly to you, or did they stay somewhere else inside the bar?
No, they came over to our table, I believe.
How long were you in the waterfall for that night?
Approximately 9 to little around midnight-ish.
About 3 hours?
Yes.
Do you have an estimate how many drinks you had, alcoholic drinks you might have had?
I don't. I don't know. Maybe 2, 3.
Throughout the night, were you feeling any effects of the alcohol?
Not that I recall, no.
When the group was together, you mentioned a number of people have joined. Were you joined by other people later?
Yes.
Who were you joined by later?
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
And you talked about your relationship with John O'Keefe?
Yes, earlier, yes.
Did you make plans with him, or did he just show up?
I believe he had started the conversation about the night with Chris Albert.
Chris Albert is a different Albert than Brian Albert?
Yes.
How was the relationship between them?
Brian Albert and Chris Albert are brothers.
Was Chris Albert there when Mr. Higgins and Brian Albert arrived?
Yes. Actually, Chris, did I miss him? Because Chris was there with Julie. Did I? I'm not sure if I said that when I was naming everyone at the table. I apologize.
You may have.
Okay.
So when you first got there, he was at the table with your
Yes.
sister?
Yes, he was.
When moments before John O'Keefe arrived with the defendant, what was the mood in the group?
Cheerful. Good mood. Everybody was just out having a drink. We all knew the storm was coming tomorrow, and just a typical average night.
Celebratory?
Yeah.
You said you were going to see Brian Albert Jr. for
Yes.
his birthday. Was Brian Albert Jr. at the waterfall when you got there?
No, he was not.
Was Brian Albert Jr. there anytime when you were at the waterfall?
No, he was not.
Without relating a conversation with some other person, did you have an understanding where Brian Albert Jr. was?
He was at home.
Did you historically or typically see Brian Albert Jr., your nephew, on his birthday?
Yeah, typically we always, get together. We try to and do a cake for whoever's birthday it is, and then whatever aunts or cousins are around come over.
When John O'Keefe arrived at the waterfall with the defendant, do you have a general estimate or guess, not guess, but a general estimate of what time they arrived?
Approximately 11.
When they first arrived, did you see them?
Yes.
Where did you see them coming from?
I saw them walk in.
When they walked in, did you react in any way?
Yes, I was happy to see them
Why were you happy to see them?
because I loved John and I liked Karen.
So you were happy to see John?
Yes, very.
And you were happy to see the defendant?
Yes.
Do you remember your first interaction with either John or the defendant that night inside the waterfall?
I believe John walked over to where I was, kind of to my end of the table, and then maybe Karen had walked to the other end of the table. But I would assume I probably hugged both of them when I
Well,
saw them.
I'm going to ask you not to assume if you don't know. That's
Okay.
okay. You said that you had known the defendant as well.
Yes.
Do you remember how long she had been dating John O'Keefe up until that point?
I know I met her in July of 2020.
Had you had a chance to spend time or interact with her over that time before that night at the waterfall?
Yes, I had.
And share with us some of the moments or some of the reasons that you would interact.
The first time I met Karen, John had reached out. We would do pool days with him and his niece and his nephew. So he had told me he was dating a new girl and he wanted to bring her over. He said that she had multiple sclerosis. I also have multiple sclerosis. So he thought that that would be something we could, we would talk and bond over. I said, yeah, great, bring her over. So her and John and Kaylee and Patrick came over. We had a pool day. I liked Miss Reed immediately. I thought we hit it off. It was really great, talking to someone my age that also had MS, because I didn't really know a lot of people who have it. So it was really nice to have somebody to relate to. Then moving forward, we would see them, if it was my daughter's birthday party, when it was time for pickup, they would come in, have a couple drinks. Same thing for like a Halloween party, after basketball games.
So you spent time both with John and Miss Reed?
Yes.
Did you spend time with the defendant separately without John around?
No.
Did you become friendly with her?
Yes.
And were you friendly that night?
Yes.
After John and the defendant entered the bar and you agreed, did you interact or spend time with Miss Reed at the waterfall?
Yes, I did.
And speaking of the defendant, do you recognize her here in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Could you kindly point to her and describe an article of clothing she's wearing?
She's sitting right over there with a black shirt or blue.
Is she between Attorney Jackson and Attorney Yannetti?
Yes, she is.
When you were at the waterfall that night, do you remember who you were speaking to or where you were spending your time?
As to earlier in the night or after?
I'm sorry, after Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant arrived.
Yes, Miss Reed came over and spoke to me because I had seen her the Saturday before, and she had told me how she had started a new medication, and it was giving her some awful side effects. And I said, I'm shocked they put you on that, etc.
Let me not ask you about conversations you
Okay.
had, but about the moment that you were in. Did you spend time with Miss Reed that night?
Yes, I did.
Inevitably, did you drink more alcohol as the night went on?
I believe I had, like I said earlier, a couple of drinks, 2, 3, not sure.
Did you ever have a shot of alcohol?
I do not believe I had the shot, no.
Did you see the party, the group of friends and family doing a shot?
I was in the bathroom and walked out, and they were doing or had just done a shot.
With the court's permission, I'd like to display parts of Exhibit 22, which has already been introduced into evidence, which is video surveillance footage from the waterfall.
Okay.
I'd like to start at 10:54:20, please. If you could just stop for 1 second. Do you recognize what's in that video?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is the waterfall.
Okay, kindly proceed. If you could stop. Do you see the two people entering from the left?
I do.
Do you know who they are?
I believe that is Miss Reed and John O'Keefe.
Ms. Gilman, is there any way to enlarge the top of the video where the other people are closer to the table or bar? No. Okay. Looking at this video, can you tell or identify anybody under that timestamp? And if you can't, that's okay. But if you can you tell us who you see?
I think the guy right there, well, where she just is Brian Higgins.
Okay. If you could go up a little bit, Ms. Gilman.
I believe that's my husband, Matt. And
On the
then
right?
on the right, and I think that's me on the left.
Okay. And if you can go down the table to the left, Ms. Gilman. You recognize who that might be from the clothing?
I'd have to take a guess that
Okay,
they could,
don't guess. It's okay if you don't. Anybody else at the table more to the left do you recognize?
not from this picture.
Ms. Gilman, could you highlight where Ms. McCabe thinks that she is on that video with that circle you just had and play the video?
Do you see how they separate as soon as they get in? As soon as they walk in, they walk different ways.
If you could stop. Is that you clapping, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, it is,
Why are you clapping?
because I was happy to see them.
Both of them.
Yes.
Could you continue, please?
It was about the last time she was happy to see Karen Reed. When we get back, I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, more on Jennifer McCabe's testimony. It is a little sped up just to make it through as much testimony as we can go over today. But it really, of course, the free Karen readers are going to say, of course, she's saying she liked her to hide up her own crime. But the better thing to do if you're pinning a crime on someone is to say horrible things about them. No? Doesn't make any sense. When we get back, more of Jen McCabe's testimony. It's a short break. Don't go anywhere.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact focus queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard task warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy, exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Pulse, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay, I just want to thank for supporting the channel. Leanne bought me 3 coffees, and Marie Horton for sending me a Venmo. You make these live streams possible. Links are in the description of this episode. Please hit the thumbs up now, guys, while you're listening. Share this episode, leave me a comment, and let's help grow this channel and spark the algorithm. All right, back to Jennifer McCabe. Let's see, John.
Person walking right to left.
I mean, just his body language, so warm. I just remember also, do you guys remember the video we saw last time of him moving the car? I don't think we'll see that this trial for Karen Reed out of the way. Or did we see it? I know it was talked about this trial. I can't remember if they showed but he has a walk, like a walk with a lot of personality, John O'Keefe. Seemed like he had a great sense of humor. It's very outgoing.
Hugging people.
That is John O'Keefe.
Can you continue, please, Ms. Gilman? Are you interacting with anybody?
I can't see where I am.
Okay. If you could stop the video, please. Could you move ahead to 11:26:50, please? 11:26:50. Is that your group still at the waterfall?
Yes, it is.
If you could stop there, Ms. Gilman. If we could hone in or circle where you were previously, where we saw Ms. McCabe. I know it's a bit blurry. If you can, and if you can, please let me know. Can you see whether you're in that area?
I believe I am, yes.
Could you put the circle down just a little bit, Ms. Gilman? Okay. If you could play from 11:26:50 to 11:27, please. We're a little bit ahead right now. Who are you hugging there?
I believe that's Miss Reed.
Thank you. One more, Ms. Gilman. I'm going to ask you to move forward to 11:46. Could you pause, Ms. Gilman? Could you circle in that same area where Ms. McCabe was last describing? Can you make anything out in this video?
Yes, it looks like they're all, toasting or doing a cheer before they do a shot.
Can you see whether or not the defendant's in that part of the video?
Yes, it looks like she is in front of the man in the plaid coat.
Were you participating with the drinking at this moment?
I don't see myself in the video. I don't believe I was.
But you were drinking separately that night, weren't you?
Yes, I was drinking beer.
You can continue, please. Thank you. Shortly after the shot, was there conversation about leaving the waterfall as a group?
Yes, there was.
Was there any discussion about where the group should go?
At first, Miss Reed was asking if we could go up the street to D&E.
What's D&E?
D&E is a sub shop that's owned by Chris Albert.
Was it open that late at night?
No, it wasn't.
Had you in the past gone to that pizza shop after hours to eat?
Yes, we had.
And tell us what the defendant was saying?
She just kept asking, can we go up to D&E? Can we go up to D&E? She wanted just to go up and, Chris makes food and then we were going to go she wanted us all just to go up there and eat and hang out.
That wasn't an uncommon occurrence.
Well, this is Ronnie, the EMT. Let's pray that there's no Ronnies or Victoria Georges on the jury. He honed in on this fact and said, well, see, Karen Reed wanted to stop drinking. We don't know if she snuck into John's house like a burglar to continue drinking. We don't know if she would have brought her glass. If that's why she brought her glass. John was carrying it. She admitted it was her glass of alcohol from one bar to another. And then John brought her glass to 34 Fairview. She's the one who wanted to keep drinking. So, but Ronnie, the EMT, Karen wanted to stop drinking and just get something to, Karen wanted to get food. He honed in on this fact. You just never know what's going to get into a juror's mind. And John wanted to keep drinking. So it's basically like victim blaming. So he got what he was deserved. He deserved to be run over. Even if he wanted to continue drinking and Karen didn't, he deserved to, which wasn't the truth. I mean, if you look at the text messages, he's like, you're jonesing to drink, so go, Karen, go. Are you going to go here for a drink? Are you going to go here for a drink? Are you going to go here? Call me, call me, call me. Just hounding him all day, making sure that he's under her thumb and she has control over him, putting him on the defensive. I don't know how you get out of that because Karen, this small detail, Karen wanted some food. That John deserved to die or that somehow her culpability is any less in this case.
For the group to sometimes go to that pizza shop after hours, was it?
No.
Did the group decide to go to the pizza shop?
They decided they weren't going to go.
Okay. Was there a different plan made?
Before Brian Albert left, he said to the group, hey, we're going to go back home and have a beer with Brian Jr. If anyone wants to come by.
When you received the invitation to the group to go back to Brian Albert's house, did you decide whether you were going to go home or go back to your sister's house?
Yes, I decided I was going to go to my sister's house.
Without saying what was said, was there any discussion in the group among the participants about going back to your sister or Brian Albert's house?
Everybody seemed to want to go back.
Did anybody object to going back?
No.
All right, I'm going to move forward in Jen McCabe's testimony, and then we'll get to just for time concerns, time constraints. Oh, did this end early? Hold on one sec. Let me pull out this. Whoop.
They did not.
As you were waiting, were you doing anything else in addition to waiting for them to come in?
Yes, so I was sitting at the table. Someone made mention of a car out front, so I got up, went to the door, looked out.
So if you're just tuning in, this is the part where Jennifer McCabe has given John O'Keefe directions to 34 Fairview, and they can see them outside the home. So Karen Reed's original story was like, I left him at the waterfall. I don't know what happened. And she's like, we saw you outside the home, which is curious. I heard a lawyer make this argument. Well, why would they park? Why would they park in the dark corner of the area where Karen Reed parked her car? Why didn't she pull into the drive, or why didn't she park closer to the drive? It seems like they were fighting. Another thing that Ian Whiffen talked about in his testimony was and people have made a lot of this. Hold on one second. In 34, when his cell phone shows him going down up steps, he was at the intersection. We know they were at an intersection, but Ian Whiffen drove the route the night before, and it showed that it cemented his theory that that was the car going up an elevation. So I've even heard people on this side making all sorts of theories around it, that Karen Reed threw John's cell phone, and that's why it showed him ascending steps. No, or descending steps, up and down steps. It was just they were at a intersection. So the original plan was to say, hey, I left him at the bar. Oh, we saw you outside 34 Fairview. Oh, he was hit by a plow. He was hit by something. Somehow she knew John O'Keefe was hit by something, some kind of vehicle. Again, psychic Karen on the scene.
And then I would go back to the table, and where we were just all laughing, talking, playing music, just hanging out, not really thinking much about anything.
Did you ever reach out to John when you thought the car out front was the defendant's car with John in it? Did you ever reach out to him?
Yes, I did.
How did you reach out to him?
I texted him.
Do you know if there was a phone call that was made to you before 12:30? A 7-second phone call?
From John?
Yes.
I don't.
You mentioned you had spoken to him about directions. Is that the last time you heard his voice?
Yes.
When the car was out front, did you exchange text messages, or were you simply texting him?
I was texting him.
Do you remember what you were texting him?
The first time I said here.
What do you mean by here? Was that
Like hair question mark, because that's when I saw the car.
Oh, you were wondering whether that was him?
Yes.
Did you send any other text messages that you can remember?
After I saw the car move locations, when I saw it go up to the flagpole, I said, pull behind me.
And do you remember any other communications you had with him? Was he texting you anything?
No.
Did he ever text you again that night?
He never texted me again.
Never called again?
No.
Did you continue to text him over the next 15, 20 minutes?
I did, yes.
And so at some point, did you realize that John O'Keefe and the defendant weren't coming in the house?
Yes, when the car was gone.
Did you ever go outside through the storm down to the flagpole to speak to them?
No.
Why not?
Why would I?
I was just asking.
I had no reason to.
So when you were in the house, at some point, did you notice that that car was gone?
Yes.
Were you marking the time or keeping track of it?
No.
After you didn't see the defendant's car?
Right. I mean, this speaks so much to how what's done in private. We protect our friends. Has anybody ever we protect our friends' feelings if we think something is wrong? We don't press. If we get ghosted a bunch of times when we say, pull in behind me, where are you? Where are you? We don't press the issue with our friends. Has anybody ever been in a situation where you have a couple fighting in front of you? How uncomfortable that is? I have. Where you've walked into a situation with a couple, you've been invited over somewhere, and it's very tense because they've been fighting. It's not something you volunteer yourself to go into. One of the points that the Free Karen readers make is, why didn't anyone from the home, first of all, snow quiets everything, hear anything? There were no sirens, no light. I mean, lights, but no sirens outside their home. They didn't hear anything. It was early in the morning. I have woken up living in the city, living in Manhattan, and heard huge things have happened. You didn't hear there was an ambulance here? No. It's just not the natural thing to do. If you're asleep, you're asleep. You can sleep through. It was a pretty quiet, besides Karen Reed screaming, pretty quiet bunch.
Anymore. Did you stay?
Yes.
How long do you think you stayed for at the house?
I stayed till about around 1:30, 1:45-ish.
Did anybody else come in the house up until 1:45?
No.
Did people leave at certain times?
Yes, people did leave.
Who was the first to leave?
Brian Higgins?
Do you remember about what time he left?
I don't.
And after Mr. Higgins left, do you know who left?
I'm not sure. I believe it was us, and then my niece Caitlin was also like at the door. It was kind of in a row. Brian left, and then a little bit later, I think it was, myself, Matt, Julie, and Sarah left. But Caitlin was at the door. I believe she was waiting for her ride.
How much longer after Mr. Higgins left did you leave?
Maybe I honestly can't say. I think he was there for a while I was there. So maybe he left anywhere from 15 minutes, approximately 15, 20 minutes before I did, or maybe a little more.
You mentioned that you had left the waterfall after midnight?
Yes.
And you had phone calls with Mr. O'Keefe along the way?
Yes.
So I'm going to be talking about today's testimony tomorrow on opening statements with Julie Grant. I think I'm the first during the 8 o'clock hour. So beginning of the show, for those who want to tune in.
Do you know that there are phone records with your text messages and phone calls in them?
Yes.
And do you know whether your phone records reflect the time of your calls with Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
And your text messages?
Yes.
When you were texting and Mr. O'Keefe, when the Lexus or the car was in front of the house, rather, was Mr. Higgins still there?
Yes.
What are some of the things that everybody did along that night before you left? What happened in there?
What happened inside the house?
Yeah.
Nothing. We basically just sat around the table, talked, laughed, listened to music, chit-chatted.
Celebratory?
Yes.
Was there ever any fighting?
No, none at all.
Any arguing?
None at all.
Any physical interaction?
No, none.
When you decided to leave that night, did you say around 1:45-ish?
Yes.
When you left around 1:45, was there any events that happened that night that would cause you...
Dark Matter. I'll be on Court TV. Go to the Court TV website. Go to the shows and opening statements with Julie Grant. Believe it goes live a couple hours. It's live on TV, and then it runs live right afterwards. So if you have Court TV on your TV, it runs live in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern. But you can pick it up on the internet. It's usually where I pick it up. It's like a couple hours after it airs, it goes on.
Unrest or excitement or your heartbeat to raise?
No.
When you decided to leave, you and your husband, where were you going to go?
We were dropping off Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, and then we were going home.
Had you planned on dropping them off earlier in the night?
No.
Or maybe it plays live on the internet while it's going, I think. And then the repeat, you have to wait for the repeat to go up. So I think you can watch it live on the website. I think so. I think it has a live feed on the main site on Court TV. Now that I'm thinking again, because thinking back to people who watched it on the website. Sorry. I'm on the show. I'm not exactly an expert on how it plays. I usually just watch the replay.
When we got there, Julie's brother had pulled up to pick them up, and
I won't ask you what was said because you weren't there.
Oh, okay.
At some point, did you come to an understanding that you would give them a ride home?
Yes.
Did you offer?
Yes.
Who was going to drive home between you and your husband?
Matt drove home.
When you left, I want you to describe as you step out into the driveway or the walkway. Was it the front door or side door, if you remember?
I walked out the front door.
Is the weather like it was when you first got there?
No, it's picked up.
Tell us what you mean by it's picked up.
So as I walk out, you kind of go, the walkway is to the left. So I walk down the steps, I go to the left. The snow was coming, it was cold, the wind was picking up.
So Jennifer McCabe. So did you ever note that she went in the front door? Why did he make a point of going in the front door? Because Karen Reed said he went in the side door, he went in the front door. She's changed her story up so many times. Your latex spouse says, Roberta, I'm a brutally honest person and I'm very loyal. I wouldn't put myself into a couple's argument, though. Good point. Pat Brooks, thank you. Great, Roberta. We know you will be awesome. I hope so. I hope I'll be awesome. It's really, the ARCA witnesses is just so disturbing to watch someone just perjure themselves to the jury, put the Commonwealth at such a disadvantage by not handing over discovery, admit to deleting 100 texts, first come in with the story that you changed carriers. And I was like, wait a second. I changed carriers not too long ago. And I still have my phone and all my text messages are there. When I turn on my phone, my old phone, what are you talking about? You can't get them. This doesn't make any sense. And then he admitted to actually deleting them. And the judge asked all these critical questions. Do you think she's going to at least throw out Wolf, Rentschler? I would be happy with that. The most lying and the expert witness who lied to the jury, said he wasn't being paid, deleted his text messages, and then downloaded the Signal app to talk to Karen Reed on an encrypted app. Now, that may be normal to talk to your friends that way, but it's not normal when you're a lawyer to talk to your client and expert witnesses that way. You know you have to hand over discovery. You know it's related to anything related to your client. And he's like, well, that rule, Alessi's like, that rule only has to do with your client. But this is a witness hired for your client. I would love to write the governing board of lawyers that they reference here and find out if they think that this is acceptable. And when they mean that you have to keep things for 5 to 10 years regarding to your client, do they mean the expert witnesses that you're hiring for your client's testimony? I would think so. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate your support. I mean, what are we talking about here?
So I kind of just like curled up and ran to my car quick to get in.
What part of the car did you get into?
Front passenger.
Who was driving?
Matt.
And where were the other two people?
Sarah and Julie were in the back seat.
Who was in what spot?
I'm not exactly sure.
So both of the young women were in the back seat?
Yes.
Was there any conversation when you got into the car?
We got in the car and they were teasing me.
Why were they teasing you?
Because I had like bread and maybe peanut butter in my car.
Why did you have bread and peanut butter in your car?
I had my niece for the week, and I was dragging her like to all my kids' sporting events. So we'd go from like one game to another game to a practice. So sometimes instead of always giving her McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, I'd try to throw her a peanut butter sandwich.
And they were making fun of you?
Yeah.
As the car backs out of the driveway, tell us what you're doing.
I'm talking to the girls.
You just moved your head.
Yes.
Does that mean anything?
Yes. They were both sitting behind me. So I was like turning and, chatting and talking.
After your husband pulls out of the driveway, do you start to drive home?
Yes.
If the house is on my right, and you're driving, are you in the passenger seat closer to the house or furthest away?
Passenger seat closest.
So you're driving, if you look at a picture of the house, you would be driving from right to left?
Yes.
Okay. So as you start to drive, or your husband starts to drive the car, what direction are you looking in, if you remember?
The back seat.
Did you drive by the front of the house, do you know?
We pulled out of the driveway and went up Chapman.
Okay. And your husband and you passed by the front of the house?
Yes.
Did you pass by the flagpole?
Yes.
Were you looking at the flagpole?
No.
And how dark was it at that point?
It was dark.
Snow?
Yes.
As you're passing the flagpole, do you hear or see anything remarkable?
No, I'm not really paying attention. I'm just chatting to the girls, and Matt's just focusing on driving.
When you're talking to the girls and they're making fun of you, what's the mood in the car?
We're all laughing and joking.
Where do you go next?
So who says Hank was paid $250,000? It's up to $250,000 for his time. They made a big deal about that, but I can't remember which is getting which, excuse me, but I believe it's Jackson getting 250 and Yannetti getting 200. Maybe the other way around. Something like that. It's in that range. So forgive me for not remembering. But Karen bargained them down, their fees down. So that really is like very low for this kind of thing, for this kind of high profile trial.
We drive Julie.
For Hank Brennan, what he's taken on.
Go home.
After you drop off in Snego, where do you go?
We drop off Sarah Levinson.
Is the weather constant?
Yes.
After you drop off the young woman in separate spots, where do you go?
We went home.
Can you tell us when you get home what happens next?
We go in the house. I go up to bed. Matt makes himself a snack and then joins me upstairs.
Do you have a telephone?
Yes.
An iPhone?
Yes.
When you go to bed, do you stay up at all?
Yes.
Do you use your iPhone?
Yes, I do.
What were you doing?
I texted a few people and then I did a couple of Google searches.
And what were the
So Adam Lally gets $143,000 a year. So they just put a cap so he can't bill out more than $250,000 for this trial. Maybe billing out less. These lawyers make so much money, which echoes what I've been saying about YouTube lawyers. If there are lawyers on YouTube full time, they're not very good lawyers because you make so much more money being a lawyer, a good lawyer, than you do on YouTube. I'll tell you that.
Searches for?
One, my daughter had played in a basketball game earlier in the night, and it was a very good game. So I went and I read the report on it. And then my other daughter had an offer to play on a basketball team. So we had to make a decision about whether or not we were going to accept the spot. So I was just looking up that basketball club.
This is the Amanda Knox. Big Leedy says this. Thank you. This is the Amanda Knox trial in real time, and ultimately that trial that worked for her. But right, it's very similar. Amanda Knox had the benefit of having the trial in a different language so that we counted on the biased reporting. And they said that starting an innocence fraud campaign pre-trial was the smartest thing they ever did. That's her father. He got her a PR agent before he got her a lawyer. And still people think that one person did that crime when no courts, even the court that let her go, didn't agree with that one person did the crime. I mean, if Amanda Knox really thinks she's innocent, she should be looking for the two other people that committed the crime with Rudy Goudet, who I also think it did it. I agree with Amanda Knox. He did it, but he did it with you and Raph. So, yeah, it did work. These innocence fraud campaigns are incredibly powerful. We like to think that our courts work in a vacuum, but they don't. They will succumb to pressure from the outside.
Club.
Other than those regular searches that one would do, was there anything remarkable about what you were searching at 2/2/27, that time frame?
No.
After you were looking at websites for your child's sports, what did you do?
I put my phone down and went to sleep.
And up to that point, had there been any discord or fighting or arguments in your world?
No.
Peaceful night?
Yes.
Did you go to sleep, Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
Did you sleep through the night?
I typically get up to go to the bathroom, so that I could have gotten up possibly to go to the bathroom.
Did anything remarkable happen in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022 that changed that peaceful mood into something else?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to share with the jury the first thing that happens that changes everything.
At 4:53, my phone rings and I look at my caller ID. I look at the phone and it's Kaylee, John's niece. And I say hello, and she said, yeah, well, basically she relayed to me that
Next question.
When you pick up the phone, could you hear a voice on the other end?
I heard a voice and a lot of screaming.
And the voice you heard, is that Kaylee, John's niece?
I mean, they wouldn't make him say it a different way, really. I mean, the same information's getting out, no matter how many times you object. But I guess they want to just try to get her off her game and distract the jury from this really damning evidence against Karen Read.
Yes,
And the screaming, was it a man or a woman screaming?
it was a woman.
How loud was that person screaming?
Very loud.
Could you make out anything that person was saying as they were screaming?
My name was screamed a lot. And then the other individual ended up getting on the phone with me.
And who was that person that was screaming in the background?
Miss Reed.
How long was she screaming for while you were speaking to your niece before you spoke to her?
The entire time I was speaking to Kaylee, she was screaming.
Describe her demeanor.
Miss Reed's.
Yes.
Jen! Jen! And then she's screaming that John didn't come home. She left him at the waterfall. She was hysterical. It was very hard to follow what she was saying.
How long did that first call last for?
I'm not sure how long, maybe possibly a few minutes, but it was loud enough and long enough that my husband shot up in bed thinking one of my kids had come in the room screaming.
Without saying what your niece said, could you describe your niece's demeanor when you first spoke to her? I mean, John's niece's demeanor.
I would say Kaylee sounded concerned, uneasy.
Okay. During that phone call, other than the screaming and the screaming of your name, did the defendant give you any information other than she had dropped John off at the waterfall?
They'd gotten into a fight. She had left him there and he didn't come home.
And when you were woken up, were you in a sleep when you were woken up?
Yes, I was sound asleep.
What was your mental state like when you first woke up and got that call?
Well, I had been up late. I had taken my medication that I take for my MS, so I was definitely a bit groggy when I first woke up. So immediately I just wanted to help her. She was hysterical. Kaylee was upset. So I went into that kind of mom mode of what can I do? How can I help? So I immediately was like thinking, okay, well, if you left him at the waterfall, let me think who was still there, or, you know, how can I help you? How can we find John?
And that's her thanks for helping Karen Read and getting up at silly o'clock and looking for John, her friend John, and being traumatized for life. Not only is she traumatized for life by it, but then she gets accused of murder. And then the whole town's pointing fingers at her for being a good friend, for getting involved with psychopath Karen Read. It's disgusting.
Did you have a plan when you ended that first call?
I did. I knew Chris Al.
One more question. Do you think Karen Read, have we ever seen Karen Read groggy? And do you think she's telling her lawyers that the reason that she switched her story so many times is she's groggy from her MS medication?
Albert had still been at the waterfall when I left. So I thought if Karen and John had gotten into a fight, maybe Chris had walked out of the bar and Chris lived local to the bar, thought maybe they walked back to Chris's together.
So what did you do?
So I called Chris Albert's wife, Julie.
Did you speak to her?
No, she never answered.
After you had a moment to make a phone call and think about things, did your head become any more clearer?
It did. And I was, reminded by my husband that we had seen Karen in John's car outside of Fairview.
When he reminded you, did you independently remember the text messages that you sent to John earlier that evening?
Immediately, I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Did you remember that you had seen what you believed to be the defendant's car in front of the house near the flagpole?
Objection.
Watch the form.
Okay. What did you remember? What came to mind after you spoke to your husband about your memory from earlier that evening?
The minute he said it, I remember seeing the SUV and then all the text messages that I had and the phone conversation with John.
So after the defendant spoke to you and said she had left the defendant at the waterfall and you had time to think about your memories, did you react or do anything with that?
Yes, I believe I called Kaylee back.
Why did you call Kaylee?
I didn't have Miss Reed's phone number.
When you called Kaylee back, did you speak to anybody?
Yes, I believe Kaylee and then Miss Reed.
When you first spoke to Kaylee, could you hear anything other than Kaylee?
The screaming.
Was it any different or was it similar to the first time you spoke by phone?
Similar to the first time.
Regarding the demeanor or intensity, had it changed at all?
Not at all.
You mentioned the first time that you had that phone call, the defendant was screaming your name. Jen,
Yes.
Jen. Was she saying your name in the second call or was it just general screaming?
My name, And then when she got on the phone, I had told her, Karen, I saw you guys outside of my sister's house. And then she told me she didn't remember being there. And then she went on to say, she started saying, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? I don't. And then she just was just all over the place, like screaming my name, screaming so many different things. She was hard to follow or understand.
When she was saying to you, did I hit him? Could have I hit him? Was that before or after you informed her that you had seen her out front of your sister's house?
It was after I told her that. She also informed me that she had cracked her taillight.
In that conversation, she told you that?
In one of the conversations I had with her in my bedroom, yes.
Okay. When you told her that you had seen her out front, she had said that she didn't remember that night. Was that before or after she was saying, did I hit him? Could have I hit him?
Can you repeat the question?
When
Sorry.
she was telling you about that she didn't remember that night, was that before or after you had told her about seeing her car?
When I said I saw her at Fairview, then her response was she didn't even remember going there.
Did she ever deny that she came to Mr. O'Keefe's house? I mean, to your sister's house?
No.
When she told you or said to you, did I hit him or could have I hit him or something like that, did you have any idea what she was talking about?
No, I didn't pay attention to it.
When she told you that she had cracked her taillight the night before, did that have any significance at that time to you?
No.
So in telling you these...
So she doesn't remember going. Of course she remembers. When people tell you what they don't remember, that's a big sign of deception there. Of course she remembers everything. But that sealed Jennifer McCabe's fate. The fact that she told Jennifer McCabe she cracked her taillight before she could make the evidence, her alibi of love tapping John O'Keefe's car in the driveway, purposely turning her wheel into the car with her infotainment system also flashing and telling her she's going to hit his car. Because she had to think of a reason why she hit her taillight. And because she told Jen McCabe that Jennifer McCabe had to be the alternative suspect. Either Jen McCabe's going down or Karen Reed's going down. That sealed Jennifer McCabe's fate.
different things, did you ever piece them together at that time?
No.
What was your primary motivation at that point?
I just wanted to help her because she was hysterical. Kaylee was very upset, so I wanted to help her, and I wanted to find John.
So after she told you these things about whether she could have did hit her and the light and not remembering, did the conversation end or did it progress?
At some point, I was then going into like, okay, well, if she brought him there and left him there, where was he? Because he never came in the house and she doesn't know where he is. So now where could he be? So I started thinking there was another gentleman that was supposed to meet us out at the bar who John was friends with. So I thought, okay, well, in my head, I'm thinking maybe they got into a fight. John got out of the car and he connected with this guy because he was at a party on the street.
What was that person's name?
His name is Tom Beatty.
Did you call him?
Yes.
Did you get a chance to speak to him that night?
That morning?
Yes.
No.
Did you call around anywhere else?
I believe I called my sister. I called John.
I have done an episode on Aaron and Tom Beatty. Karen Reed says that in a text message to Aidan Carney that she thinks the whole town thinks he's gay. That's Karen Reed's words, not mine. But Tom Beatty and his daughter Erin became big supporters of Karen Reed after this. And he's the one who didn't show up at the Waterfall bar that night. He's also rumored to have had some kind of relationship with Karen Reed after John O'Keefe's death, but did it start before John O'Keefe's murder?
Called Tom Beatty. I called his daughter.
You called John O'Keefe's phone?
Yes.
Did he answer?
No.
Did it go right to voicemail?
I don't remember.
Did you text anybody?
I honestly don't remember if I texted. I primarily think I was just trying to call as many people as I could and try to figure out what happened.
So you had 2 conversations at this point with the defendant while you were still home.
Yes.
Was there any further phone calls that you had before you did something?
I'm not sure if I know I went downstairs to make coffee because my plan was to go with my husband. I said, come on, let's just go over to Tom Beatty's. Let's see, maybe John's there. He passed out on the couch. I'm not sure if Karen called me again or not. It's a little foggy because there was so many calls and everything.
Okay. And so that morning when you're receiving calls, did something happen?
Karen showed up at my house.
How did you know Karen showed up at your house?
I could hear her screaming out front.
And about what time is this?
Approximately 5:20, 5:30. I can't be
Were
sure.
you worried for John at this point?
Not particularly, no.
Were you screaming?
No.
Now, at this point, this moment when you hear her outside of your house yelling early morning hours, did you know a person by the name of Kerry Roberts?
I knew of her. I'd met her once.
Were you friends with her at that time?
No.
Had you socialized with her at that time?
No.
Had you ever seen her before with John?
Once.
Tell me about that.
Just a refresher. This is Innocence Fraud Watch's blog. I'm just gonna go over this really quickly. But here's Erin Beatty. She played basketball. She's the eldest daughter of Tom Beatty. This is Karen Reed's fantasy that everyone thinks he's gay. Here's all these rumors that they're sleeping together. Were you trying to protect Tom Beatty because of the rumors that Karen hooked up with him, similar to when Karen didn't want the blogger to know she kissed Brian Higgins and was trying to bang him? She was very protective of Brian Higgins in the beginning. Says who? Tom Beatty, the guy who was banging Karen after she killed John O'Keefe? Right, let's believe that POS. Piece of crap, I'll say. Right? But he's the one who started all this stuff with his own, started the whole conspiracy theory about the people in that house and with his daughter. One of the people that whipped it up. But he was going to meet up with John at the waterfall, but he didn't show up. And there was a group text between 5 families, one being Tom Beatty. And Nicholas Kolakithis was very evasive and strange when asked exactly who decided to pick out the waterfall by Adam Lally. He went over his testimony. That's just a refresher before we continue on with Jennifer McCabe's testimony.
Years earlier, as I said earlier, I used to take Kaylee on Friday nights, and Kerry was the one who would take Patrick on Friday night. So we would each have the kids. And to thank us, one day John told us how he got a discount at Reebok and to get our kids' shoe sizes, and he was going to buy us all sneakers, just as a way to say thank you for helping. So we all went to the store together, and then John took Kerry and myself to the hillside for lunch.
How many years before this moment was that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think that's when my daughter was in kindergarten or first grade, and at this point she was in 8th grade. So like 7 years.
Had you ever spent any other time with Kerry Roberts before this morning?
No.
Were you friends?
Yes, Nicholas Kolakithis is a lawyer, Emily. That's what you were asking. Thank you, Sky Girl says, love your shows. Thank you, Sky Girl. Appreciate it.
At that point?
No.
How would you consider your relationship with Miss Roberts on that morning when Miss Reed arrived to your home?
I had met her once, and that was the extent of it. I wouldn't say I knew her at all beyond that one time I went out with her.
I want you to take us back now to when you first hear the defendant in your driveway yelling. When you hear that, do you hear any words, or is it general yelling?
So I hear her yelling. So I was downstairs making coffee. I go to my front door and I open it, and she's screaming, Jen, Jen. She's screaming that 3 times. And then she was saying, we have to go to Fairview. a lot of the could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Just she was on repeat.
What did you do?
My husband came running down the hall and was like, tell her to shut up. She's going to wake up the neighbors. And then I said, I'm just going to go with her. I'm going to go look for John. And then he yelled down saying something like, you can't be driving around in this weather, with a broken taillight.
When you saw the defendant at your front door, had the weather changed overnight?
Yes.
Was it different?
Yes. Now the snow had intensified. It was almost like it was dark outside, but it was like whiteout conditions.
How dark?
Dark. I mean, it was dark. It was like 5:30 in the morning.
What was the visibility like?
Not good.
After you meet the defendant at your door, do you let her in or does she stay outside?
I'm not sure if I just grabbed my coffee and ran out or whether she came in. So we went down my walkway. She was just kind of running all around. The driver's door was open. So I told her I was going to drive because I thought she was too hysterical to drive. In the meantime, all of a sudden there was a car at the end of my street and there was a plow behind it.
The car that came to the end of your street, do you know where it went?
I meant the end of my driveway. I'm sorry.
When you say at the end of your driveway, did it pull into your driveway?
No, it just kind of stopped right at the base of my driveway.
Okay. How far behind your car was that car?
Not far, not too far.
Okay. Did you know who was in that car?
No.
Did you learn who was in that car?
Yes.
How did you learn who was in the car?
Because I said, who is that?
Did you ask the defendant or did you walk
I
up?
asked the defendant, and she told me it was Kerry Roberts.
Did you meet Kerry Roberts face to face in your driveway that morning?
Yes, I wouldn't say we met. It was more of a, the plow was coming, so she was having to move down the street, and then either Karen called her or she called Karen, but they were on the phone, Karen's phone over the car, so they started talking.
Did you get into the defendant's car?
Yes, we did. I got in the car with Miss Reed.
When you got in the car, you were in the driver's seat. Was Miss Reed in the passenger front?
Yes.
You said there was an open call. Is this something you could hear on a speaker?
Yes.
At that point, had you had a chance to go and look at the taillight of that car?
No.
Did you have any interest in the taillight at that point?
No.
There was an open call between who?
Karen and Kerry Roberts.
Can you describe what you heard in that call?
Karen was saying that she wanted to go to Fairview, and Kerry Roberts was instructing her that no, we weren't going to be going to Fairview, and she kept saying, we got to go to your sister's house, and Kerry Roberts said, no, we're not going to be driving around in this weather in two cars. Let's go back to John's, let's go to Meadows, let's go see if he's there. That was kind of the conversation, and then Karen was doing a lot of screaming, and Kerry was kind of yelling back at her to shut up.
Who was taking charge of the situation that morning?
Kerry Roberts.
Were you in charge of it?
No.
Did you weigh in or make any decisions on where you were going to go next, or were you just a listener?
I just listened. Kerry said that Kerry's kind of a take charge person. She said, we're going to Meadows. So I said, okay, I drove to Meadows.
Now, at this point, you didn't know Kerry Roberts other than that meeting?
Yes, correct.
And you agreed to follow her?
Yes.
So tell us what happened. Take us through the drive.
She might have followed me. I'm not sure, but we drove back to Meadows, pulled into the driveway.
So you knew where Meadows was? You had been there many times for the kids?
Yes.
You think Ms. Roberts may have followed you?
Yes.
What was the weather conditions as you were driving?
They were awful. It was, I was driving very slow, cautiously. It was dark. It was hard to see. It was that type where the snow was coming at your window.
How long of a ride was it from your home to John's home?
Approximately 5-6 minutes.
Was there any other phone calls while you were in the car with Ms. Roberts, or did the phone calls end?
I believe that was it.
Can you describe the defendant's demeanor on the...
I mean, just the snow. When I love when the Free Karen readers say that it was just like a light dusting of snow. So I think we're pretty close to the end here. But Karen Reed knew, spoiler alert, Karen Reed knew right where to find the body. When Jen McCabe saw nothing, Karen Reed said she saw John O'Keefe like a buffalo on the prairie. I mean, it was so obvious. How could they not see him with his face covered in snow at the side of the road? Who would be looking for him there except someone who knew that they hit him? I think she got out and looked. When you go to that mortally wounded quote, again, it's clear by the context that they weren't talking about the next morning. They were talking about that night after she hit him. She got out of her car and looked and just drove away. because Karen Reed has never taken responsibility. If you ask Karen Reed to help you search for someone, like her friends, does anybody remember when Microdots, Richie Keough, who's been in the war room, he's a propagandist for Karen Reed, fell over into the street? And everyone's like, oh, you okay? Karen Reed and her lawyers just keep on walking. She's all about herself all the time, Karen Reed. And this innocence fraud campaign has been 100% about causing pain and suffering to all the people who have her, got her. Very much like Marty Tanklev, very much like Amanda Knox. It doesn't matter so much if the evidence proves her innocence. She just wants the public to believe she's innocent and avoid prison. Just face no consequences, and she will come out this the hero. Made everyone else the villain and herself the hero, while acting in ways that are completely repulsive. So here's about the ARCA witnesses. We heard yesterday, chilling cross. It's going to be a really hard cross on both of them when they come to the stand. I don't think any of this will matter too much this time around. We'll see. Depends on who's on the jury. If there are free Karen readers on the jury, none of this matters. We could play Saturday Night Fever for 8 weeks straight and they'd say Karen Reed is innocent. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what any testimony they have. If they had a video in front of them, Karen Reed committing the crime, they would say it was doctored, made by the Commonwealth. Jen McCabe made that video. No amount of evidence will convince these people. However, if it is a fair jury, I don't think that ARCA is going to matter too much this time around. Already, last time round, there were people on the jury who honed in right away on their testimony. They thought it was very weird. This is what I would think. That they thought if they were given other materials from the Commonwealth, that they requested no materials from the Commonwealth to do their experiments and only got them from this other entity. And now from the testimony from ARCA, you really find out here is the federal investigation violating the sequestration order. And this really got buried in all this testimony yesterday. This was a key part of the testimony yesterday. So sequestration order means that you can't listen to other people's testimony. And here's the feds. They said the feds. I think it was the defense, but the defense and the feds are one and the same. So it doesn't really matter. But here they are feeding them what the Commonwealth witnesses were saying on the stand so that ARCA could counter them. They were 1,000% hired guns for the defense. And somehow the Attorney General's office, with its rivalry with the DA's office, was intent on embarrassing the DA's office and getting Karen Reed off. Didn't work. Adam Lally got a hung jury, which was like it's like a real victory. I mean, that's what this testimony made me realize. What a victory it was last time round that Adam Lally got a hung jury and not an acquittal on any one of the charges. And I do not believe that they all agreed that she was innocent on the biggest charges. Sorry. It's pretty easy to understand those jury sheets and the verdict sheets. Each charge has its own verdict sheet. If they agreed on one of those charges, they would have handed it in. I do not believe these jurors that say that, whoa, we all agreed. However, this time around, I just don't think the ARCA witnesses are going to matter. What I worry about with a fair jury, this is all based on a fair jury, not based on free Karen readers. Because if it's free Karen readers, we're headed into either an acquittal or another hung jury. So I think that if it's a fair jury, they're going to see that they're hired guns for the defense. Last time around, they thought that someone was paying them. So this time around, I think it's obvious that they're hired guns for the defense. And they're going to take their experiments, their potato canyon experiments with a grain of salt. Don't think it will make a difference. And I think this is a real, I don't know if Hank Brennan has written his closing argument yet, but it's a real time for Hank Brennan to pull all the evidence together. And there's so much different evidence that all points to Karen Read together and really argue in closing. And Lally, that's where, if I have any criticism of Lally, though he did a great job in cross-examinations and direct examinations and being up against everything, including Judge Cannoni. I mean, he wasn't allowed to bring in any of Karen Read's own statements last time round. He did a really good job, but he could have done a better job in opening and better job in closing. That is my feeling on Lally. It's a complicated case. It's your time to pull all the evidence together and really spoon feed it to the jury. Now, my friend really loves Adam Lally because he doesn't spoon feed it, and he doesn't spoon feed evidence to the jury, that he puts out the facts out there and lets the jury put it together themselves. But when he had his time to argue, I think he really could have pulled it together in a much more concise, more effective way. That's my feeling.
Commonwealth is going to ask the court to preclude the ARCA witnesses from testifying both about any new testing and any new opinions, and secondly, from testifying about their original opinions turned over in a report prior to last year's trial. To be brief, what we learned or confirmed is that we do not have all of the discovery of communications. There was a court order for the ARCA witnesses to provide Your Honor with all of their information, phone records, text messages, communications about this case. Instead of providing their information to the court, they instead chose to send it to the defense, and then it was summarized and provided by the defense to the court and to the Commonwealth. It appears to me that is not in compliance with the court's order. What we learned during the hearing yesterday is that Dr. Wolf admittedly destroyed over 100 text messages. Now, he mentioned that he changed phone carriers, but then later admitted that he actually intentionally, for no apparent reason, destroyed the text messages in this case. And so what is left for Your Honor to look at is a summary of phone records from the defense and ARCA's information that is passed through the defense to the court. You do not have the text messages. You do not have the content of the text messages. There is no summary of the conversations, dozens and dozens of calls between the defense and the experts. It is difficult to believe that all of those text messages and all of those phone conversations dealt with simply logistics. In fact, we later learned during the questioning of Dr. Rensselaer, there is much more involved than simply logistics. But to get back to Dr. Wolf, he did not disclose to the court that he was communicating and having conversations on Signal. How odd. An expert using Signal. Never used it before. Dr. Rensselaer said would not use Signal, never use Signal. But Signal, as we know, is an application that does not create a record of communications. Dr. Wolf maintained on his direct that everything he did was logistics, even when we showed him the direct examinations with comments that asked for input from the defense to questions in a way that would be advantageous to the defense and to thwart the Commonwealth. Dr. Wolf actually still continued to testify that that was simply procedure in logistics, never admitting the fact that there was, in fact, conversations or information exchange about bettering the presentation for the defense. Inevitably, I asked him about the sequestration order and how evasive he was. You simply have to compare him to Dr. Rensselaer, who was quite candid. An hour or 45 minutes with Dr. Wolf, difficult getting a straight answer. Dr. Rensselaer told us more in 5 minutes than Dr. Wolf told us his entire examination. And what we unfortunately learned is that during the trial, when this court had a sequestration order, information was being passed to the experts about witness testimony, in this case, unknown to the Commonwealth, unknown to the court, information, particular information, not general information, witness testimony, issues in the case. We have no idea who is deciding or identifying the issues and who the advantage is given to in describing those issues. But that is witnesses being prepped through an intermediary. So we know the Department of Justice, at least, is violating the order, helping the witnesses along, and then they testify unbeknownst to the Commonwealth that they have this information, but obviously is reflected in the testimony. In addition, I provided some clips to Your Honor for review.
Yes, do you want me to mark these as an exhibit?
I do.
Okay, so this was an exhibit from yesterday. I did have the opportunity to look at them.
I suggest that the relationship was not resigned to mere logistics. And so from that subterfuge, what we stand with today is that we know that the witnesses were well prepared. We know that there was not true independence. And what we know is that they are refusing to provide the necessary information to support their original opinions that they gave at the first trial. They cited that it was a protective order. Perhaps it is. That has nothing to do with the issue. By calling the ARCA witnesses as their witnesses, they then have the obligation to comply with Rule 14. Unlike the first trial, where the Commonwealth had no ability to do any testing, review, vet the reliability of the information, properly prepare for cross-examination, this trial, that should not occur. Just because it happened last trial and the Commonwealth was disadvantaged does not mean it should happen this trial. And that is precisely why I began moving for discovery in this case early on. Inevitably, if these witnesses cannot provide information because it's under a protective order, it may not be the defendant's fault in its inception, but it is their problem and difficulty because they chose to hire the ARCA witnesses. They could have chosen any witnesses they want. Rule 14 is not obviated because they made a strategic decision to call the ARCA witnesses. So now going into this trial, even Dr. Rentschler admitted that an expert should have time, in their opinion, a month or more, to review the raw materials. It's not enough simply to have a report, as Attorney Alisi preached during his argument. We should have the opportunity to go through the raw data, the history, the video, determine whether there's any failed testing. We don't have that benefit. And so my position has changed, that those early opinions should not come in because we have no ability to fairly cross-examine. As for the new opinions, the report may not be done until May 7th. We are in the middle of trial. Concedingly by the defense, or at least their witnesses, it takes a month to go through the discovery. When I filed my motion on the eve of trial that we would be unable to prepare or we would want a continuance in this case, I appreciate why this case wasn't continued. But I knew, given our scheduling, our experts will not be able to look at this material. Our expert is away until after the first week of May. He is going to be testifying shortly after. He will have no ability to digest this enormous amount of materials, vet whether it's accurate or not, conduct tests to combat it if he thinks that it's inaccurate or unfair. And so the discovery violations, regardless of the state of mind, are upon the defendant. There is no exception that you used ARCA witnesses. There is no exception that you hired somebody that used to be under a federal protective order. They chose them, and I would suggest it seems strategically. When we noticed we'd have new experts in October, the defense from past experience, and probably other experience, but we know from this case, knows the process. They would have to file a TUI letter and wait for a response. And yet they waited until February to seek permission, which then extended their permission past February into March. And then they didn't even start the review until late March. And so it's fundamentally unfair. We should not be placed in the position of cross-examining experts without the fair ability as any participant, defendant, Commonwealth, any participant would have in a case to consider and then to rebut. And so for that reason, I ask you to exclude both the new opinions and new testing, and also to exclude the earlier opinions that we will never, at this point, receive the proper discovery with to prepare.
I mean, she's like, oh, tough crap. If you need help, how are they going to get help? How are they going to get help? Delay the trial in the middle of it? So spoiler alert, the judge already decided that these witnesses can testify. But she's like, if you need help, Commonwealth, if you need more time, put it in a motion and maybe I'll decide on it. Like what? Like what? They're going to have the last witness, like hire some guy on the fly and throw this thing at him right now? And have him do tests now so he can testify what, like the last person 4 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now? This trial is going very quickly. It's obscene and absurd and unfair. The point of the judge is supposed to keep the trial fair and to the law. She or he is the referee of the courtroom. You follow the rules of the game. Now you have one half of the court cheating, erasing text messages. This is not their first discovery violation. Lucky Lawfren, they violated discovery with, right? Testify last time. Marie Russell, and the ARCA witnesses. That's my memory of it. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And Lucky Lawfren just testified at the trial, and I'm making up a new memory. This is all from my memory. But she's like, never mind. They talked on a Signal app. They say there's no rules that you have to keep the text messages, the communications. You have to keep everything in regards to your client. And that includes, and she made this argument earlier, that includes her own witnesses. Never mind that. Even if so, even if they, let's say these text messages were all, they weren't purposely hidden from the Commonwealth, which we know they were, and done in a sneaky way to sandbag the Commonwealth because they can't win fairly in the courtroom. Let's say all of these text messages were deleted, okay, by accident. They still don't have them, and they still can't meet their discovery obligations. So you have one team totally meeting their discovery obligations and the other team not meeting it at all. And I'm sorry, when Alessi comes up and says, well, the Commonwealth made a little correction on something that they'd already given us, that is not violating your discovery violations. Okay? You have the host of what they were talking about there anyway. I loathe Robert Alessi. I loathe him. Imagine coming to court every day and you pass by Peggy O'Keefe and John O'Keefe's father, John Sr., and see Peggy O'Keefe weeping. It's not you're not there to do your job. No, you're there for free. You volunteered to help out their son's murderer get off. To just advance your own career and feel like a big man, feel like a big shot and get a lot of attention. It's revolting. It's the same thing that repulses me from Marie Russell. These are dark characters, lacking in empathy. Oh, it's so frustrating watching this trial. It's not like let the best team win. It's like, oh, Lance Armstrong, you've been doping? Well, I'll let you ride against all these players that haven't been doping. Other players, if you need help, if you need a little help midway through the race, let me know. Maybe I'll give you a 2-second advantage. This doesn't help. They're hugely advantaged in cross-examination. And it shows that they were up to something that they don't want other people to find out. There's something to be said for privacy, but when you're doing things in secret, you don't want anyone to know about, you're up to no good. Common sense tells you you're up to no good. And that's the way Karen Read operates on Signal apps like a criminal. She thinks she can outsmart the law. And she may outsmart the law. She may get acquitted from all this. And then she will sue for wrongful arrest, wrongful imprisonment, etc. She may win millions. That's how this grift works. That's how an innocence fraud grift works.
All right, thank you. Mr. Alessi, I only have one question for you. So would you stand, please? You're arguing this, right? This was your motion. So my question is, how do I reconcile the fact that 100 text messages were deleted by counsel? And we heard yesterday counsel's preferred method of dealing with Dr. Wolf was via Signal. How do we reconcile that with the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct 1.15? I don't see how you reconcile that, where all correspondence related to the matter, whether in physical or electronic form, must be saved for 10 years minimum. How do you reconcile that? How do I reconcile that?
Should I go to the podium?
Right there, and I expect a short answer.
The short answer, Your Honor, is the rule that you're citing has absolutely no applicability to this proceeding. Can I finish my answer, Your Honor?
Right ahead.
Has no applicability. That rule is intended to be between an attorney and the client. The court has no jurisdiction to enforce that rule.
I agree. I agree. That's a different body, but I'm asking you how I reconcile that when I'm trying to figure this out. Mr. Leslie, you know what? You're going to win this, so why don't you just let me make.
Oh, so that was the magic thing. It doesn't apply. It doesn't apply. All right, I'm going to look at this 1.15 tonight, these rules of conduct. I'm going to read them. I'm going to dig into them tonight, and I'll let you know what I find out. But this all has to do with the fees. This is when lawyers get in trouble the most, having to do with fees, because it's an obvious violation that they can easily prove, and there aren't any sort of slimy loopholes. But they've lied to the court. They've told the court that Karen Read has a brain tumor that she obviously doesn't have, that she had her colon removed. We've seen no signs of that. They've leaked out information into file and then reported on the information that they leaked as it's been reported as the information they've leaked to Aiden Carney. That's they cannot do. They violated their discovery violations over and over and over and over and over and over and again. They made extrajudicial statements that prejudice their client's right to a fair trial constantly. They've accused others of this crime with no proof. They've acted in totally, how do I say it? Totally criminal ways by starting a witness harassment campaign with Aiden Carney. And there's text messages, phone calls, telling them that they don't want to publicly be seen with him because they want to maintain the look of an independent investigation by Aiden Carney when they're in thick with him. I mean, they should have their law license removed. None of these lawyers should ever practice law again. They are a danger to like Karen Read, the danger to the rest of us. Anyone who has these lawyers is a client of these lawyers is a danger. They're dangerous individuals who break the law on the regular. And they demean and degrade our legal system and the fabric of our country every day that they still hold their license. So I encourage my audience to write to the bar and report Alan Jackson, report David Yannetti, report Robert Alessi, report Elizabeth Little. If you're angry about this, the way that they've comported themselves, if you're as angry as I am, write them up, because nothing will be done until good people speak up.
Make my ruling. Okay. So I understand there have been repeated violations of the reciprocal discovery orders and my orders. Repeated
discovery violations. They don't listen to the court. They don't listen to the judge. They are the law to themselves, but we're going to let them do it. This judge is poor. Report the judge while you're at it. People got to speak up. People have to speak up. Because when it comes time from your friend, she has just trampled on the O'Keefe family and the public. She's not just trying to protect Karen Read's rights. You also protect the rights of the public and the rights of the victim's family. But all that matters to Judge Cannoni is Karen Read's rights. But once you break the law and you violate the court orders over and over and over again, I'm sorry, not so concerned. I think you might lose your rights, might lose that privilege. That's the idea. Just as when you murder someone in your car, backing into them 24 miles an hour in reverse with your foot 75% on the gas pedal, you're going to lose, you may lose your freedom. Just as when you harass witnesses in this case and rack up 16 witness harassment counts, you might be going to prison for a little bit. I'm not convinced. I think Aidan Carney might still get away with it. Not convinced Karen Reed won't get away with it. But it doesn't make me feel that either one of them is any less guilty. This trial has been an eye-opener. It's so lawless in Massachusetts. If you want to kill your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, go to Massachusetts. Go to Canton. Great place to kill your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your wife, your best friend. Because you'll get judges like Judge Cannoni, who will be all concerned with your feelings and your rights and not care 2 cents about the victim's rights, the rights of the public, or how fair the trial is. She will make the trial so unfair in your favor that you might just walk free after blatantly murdering someone. Even if he's a cop. Even better. It feels like it's even more impotence. It's like, I really feel like Judge Cannoni shares this cop hatred that's been really whipped up by our media and through our universities and being taught and spread around. It's sick. It's really sick.
And deliberate. But, and Mr. Brennan, I understand completely the Commonwealth's argument, completely the ambush that has been set upon here. However, a defendant's right to a fair trial is paramount to everything. So I'm going to allow the ARCA witnesses to testify. I am going to allow what I expect to be a very robust cross-examination, and I'm going to allow them to testify.
So where was her concern for a fair trial when her lawyers were making extrajudicial statements? Where was her concern for a fair trial for Karen Reed when her lawyers were leaking out information to journalists and to disgraced bloggers and then making motions that didn't even have anything to do, leaking out information in their filings? Where was Judge Cannoni in that? How does that factor into Karen Reed's right to a fair trial? Where was Karen Reed's right to a fair trial when her lawyers were lying to the court about the unbiased, not paid by anyone, paid by a separate entity, excuse me, ARCA witnesses? I mean, you heard Judge Cannoni. They have violated. They've shown a lack of candor. Then they lied to the court. Where was Karen Reed's right to a fair trial when her lawyers were lying to the court about paying ARCA witnesses, etc.? They swore under oath more times after they were caught that they were unbiased, totally fair-minded witnesses, paid for by the feds. Oh, my Lord. And you know what? If Karen Reed had got off the first time with these lying witnesses, it would be like, see, didn't you see Karen Reed was innocent? Didn't you listen to the unbiased ARCA testimony? Thank God it got out. But the only reason it got out is we know a tiny fraction of the truth because the defense leaked it because they had to. They had no choice. They were up against the wall. So they leaked out a little bit, knowing that nobody could ever find their text message. How much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet? When all this went down on February 18th of this year, when Hank Brennan got the discovery and presented it to the court, this tiny little bit of discovery from ARCA showed that they were paid, that they were helping script their own testimony with the defense. How much do you want to bet that's when Alan Jackson said, delete all your text messages between us now. How much do you want to bet that? Because isn't it odd that Daniel Wolf can't remember when he deleted the text messages? And how much do you want to bet that Karen Reed was on that text message group or in that text message group? I'm just sick to my stomach of this stuff. It's revolting. Seriously. These people are absolutely dangerous. These lawyers are dangerous. Karen Reed. At least Karen Reed, people know she's dangerous. At least on this side they do. But these lawyers will continue to victimize other people and victimize our courts, as will Karen Reed. But they do it with a lot more power and a lot more reach.
To everything that they said up until yesterday. So you'll get the report May 7th. And I know that's late. And if you need anything as a result of that being late, I'll hear you on whatever motion you have. But that's where we stand. And I expect counsel to comply with all rulings and rules of the court and all rules of professional conduct. And no more nonsense. Let's just try this case. All right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow.
All rise in the court, please.
Oh, did you hear her? No more nonsense. Well, that worked last time when you said no more lying to the court. That worked last time, didn't it? Worked great, didn't it? It is. It's the Wild West. That's what I've been saying, Hannah. It's the Wild West. Go to Massachusetts when you want to kill someone. You'll get Judge Cannoni. She'll help you out. I can't stand it. I really can't stand this anymore. It's like I feel like I'm watching like the 1986 Knicks or something. You know, like it's like it's actually much worse. It's like I'm watching, like I'm rooting for someone up against Lance Armstrong. That's more like it. It's like everything's against them, you know, everything's against the Commonwealth except the truth. That's with them. So we got the judge against us. We got a cheating team of lawyers, of really corrupt, lying lawyers. And we got a psychopathic defendant. But we got the truth. See if the truth will prevail. Is the truth stronger than an innocence fraud campaign? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Stay tuned. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 9:00. I'll be watching the Karen Reed trial. Come to my channel and watch it with me. Shows at 6:00 in the evening afterwards. Thanks so much for listening. Please support the channel. The links are in the description of this episode. Send a donation via Venmo. Buy me a coffee. Great ways to support the channel. Patreon or become a Patreon member. Also great way to support the channel. Get access to content that is exclusive to Patreon members. I cannot do it without you. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great night, everybody.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mom. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. basement. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry. Jen, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit, yeah.